Hello and welcome to episode 32 of the Legal Genie podcast with me, your host, Lara Cui. And today we are doing our second session of Bite Size BD. And I'm here with my friend and fellow executive coach, Ricky Nowak. She's a leadership coach and former actor who takes the drama out of coaching and training. Welcome to the show, Ricky.
Hello. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. And it's great to see you on this lovely sunny Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about networking.
Well, it's an interesting topic. For some, it's a walk in the park. Other times, it's a struggle in the dark. What is it for you, Lara? And what do you do that makes networking not work, but work?
It's about whether you approach it with a positive mindset. And I'm definitely someone who really enjoys networking. I don't really see it as networking, to be honest. I see it very much as making new friends. And I think that as an adult, you're never too old to make new friends. And so strangers are people that you just haven't met yet. So they're friends you haven't made yet. And what is networking? So actually networking comprises three elements. So building and developing long-term professional relationships, which are mutually beneficial, not just for you, but the other party as well, and that lead to a positive outcome in the end. So hopefully, because it's a professional situation, you do actually get something out of it. And that can be just a very nice friendship, someone great to spend time with, perhaps a buddy to go along to networking sessions with and things like that. Or it may lead to ultimately the golden egg, which could be a referral, a piece of business, an opportunity, but something positive. So a mutually beneficial long-term relationship that leads to a positive outcome.
I think you're absolutely spot on with that. And I find sometimes when it seems to have been pushed too fast, when you don't have the relationship and somebody's asking too much of you, it's a bit like spam in your email or in the letterbox when you feel that it's being forced on you and there's a resistance to accept the invitation or the communication, because then it no longer feels authentic. And as you said, networking can be a number of things. Tell me a little bit about the first one, which was just the part of building a relationship. What do you do that makes building relationships enjoyable for you as well as others that you talk to?
I think I'm a very naturally curious person, genuinely interested in other people. So I always have questions. When I meet someone new, I'm really interested in them, but I'll observe them and think about what might be a relevant question for this person. How can I ask something that's going to help me find commonality? I think for me, I try to build on those common elements, things that we share that help us connect on a deeper level. So, for example, if I go to an event here in Singapore, if I meet someone that I think looks interesting and open, I'll walk up to them and start with something really simple like, what brings you to this event? How did you hear about it? Is there anyone else here that you know? Tell me a bit about how you spend most of your time. Have you been in Singapore a long time? There are questions that you can easily ask that are quite innocuous. And I think it is important for you to gauge exactly the other person's reaction. Do they look distracted? Do they look happy that you've approached them? Are they open? Listen deeply to their answers. I think that's what I do, and respond with to show that I've listened. So when they reply with something, I make sure that my reply is then also very relevant and that we can go deeper in that direction. But also just pay attention to their tone, their pace, and their body language as well.
You're absolutely right. And I think the essence in there is resisting the temptation to give as much as you can at that point. What I've found in networking here in Australia is that the key is people generally like to talk, but if you fill up the other side of the equation with all about you, they lose the interest. So keeping the interest in them, not forcing them to keep answering questions. Great ways to say, oh, tell me more about that. Or how does it happen like that? What did you do to make that work? Rather than just firing off random questions one after another. They put up the barrier to do it. But what happens, for example, Lara, when you go somewhere and people don't respond to those fairly friendly questions, but they don't bite, for example? They're not engaged, they're distracted. What do you do?
I must say it is very rare for someone not to be receptive. Usually
I'm not sure with your
event. Well, no, people have gone to the event with the specific intention of meeting others. So I think people should go with the right mindset. But if they're distracted, say they've gone to meet a friend there and they're looking around the room looking for that person, I think it is important to gauge that before you approach someone. But I think you can generally trust your instincts. What's your gut telling you about this person and how receptive they are and whether you're on the same wavelength? And sometimes that person just isn't in the right mood, and that's fine. But I think you should realize that and quickly move on. And I don't think you need to take anything personally. You can just think, actually, it wasn't the right time for that person. But also to expect that you will not click with every single person. It's just human nature. Some people are from your tribe and some people are not, and that's fine. So you're just in the exploratory phase, having a look around, seeing who looks nice and open and someone that you could have a chat to and see how it goes. But I wouldn't take things too seriously. I think if you keep it lighthearted and you're there with the intention of just being friendly, then it can really go places. But how about you, Ricky? Do you enjoy networking? And what would you say about your networking style?
Thanks. Yeah, I do enjoy networking. In fact, I love to observe before I go in. And I feel if I do my homework before I do my mouth work and I find out who else might be there, where are the similarities, where the complementarity of our work, and who might be coming along to that event that would be great for me to have a conversation with or actually be introduced to, then I feel as though I've got some value to bring to the conversation. Because I think people are busy, and while they do want to come to an event, they do want to get some value from the event. So I try and come prepared with some relevant information, a little bit of research on the topic itself, on the speaker, perhaps if there's a speaker on the day. I find out who are the key players in the room and what has brought them to the event, and see if I can bolt on my conversation to something that's really important for them. Because as professionals, time is important to us, and I don't want to walk away thinking I wasted somebody's time by conversations that didn't land somewhere, didn't give them a chance to say, that's interesting, let's have a follow-up conversation, or why don't we talk about this in a different way, maybe over lunch or come into the office. And if there is no opportunity to reconnect, that's actually fine for the moment. But can you walk away and say, well, does that person give me permission to contact them perhaps at another time without harassing them to sell them something or offer them something just because we share something in common, like a sporting game or kids' clubs or holidays, something that is a common point of interest. And that's what I love to do. So I love networking and I have a lot of fun, but I do take it seriously because I want to make sure that the people that I connect with feel that there's value in the conversation at whatever level it might be. So we've got lots of events here in Australia coming back on popularity again since COVID is everything's open again. How are people meeting now in Singapore, and what are you doing to get to these events?
Singapore has opened up recently. The restrictions on numbers have been lifted. People are still very cautious using masks and things, but very keen to get back to a social setting. And I have been to 3 networking events recently. And I've been so pleasantly surprised to see the energy from people. They are so keen to be back in person, to be catching up with old friends, meeting new friends. the first thing that everyone says is, oh, I feel a bit out of practice. And it's true, right? Because these were events, certainly in my role in business development, I would go to every week, many events, seminars and proper networking events and dinners and lunches, etc., with groups. And so it is a muscle that you need to exercise.
Yeah,
And it is something, therefore, the topic for today, because of the feeling that people may have forgotten some of the networking tricks. And I think your point about doing the homework before the mouth work is really a key one, because it is true that it is very easy to just show up somewhere, but actually to go prepared in some way, if it is possible, that I think is very relevant. And even if you're not able to prepare perhaps in advance, one good trick that I love to do is when I arrive at an event that has name tags, I ask at the reception area, could I have a quick look at the registration list? So I quickly scan that list to see who's there that I already know and any names that I recognize that I might want to meet. Because then you get a feel for how many people have registered, who's here already, because you can see their names ticked, who's expected, and who is there that you already know. And when you're feeling a bit intimidated in a large room, it's great to see a name that you recognize and think, oh my goodness, my friend such and such is here. That's great. You can see that it's ticked off. They've got their badge. You go in there and you look around for them. That gives you the confidence. You go up, hello, great to see you. How are you doing? Get that conversation started. That's very easy. And then hopefully you can say to them, is there anyone else here that we can go up and start a conversation with? And that gets you going, because otherwise it can be really intimidating to go to an event if you don't know anybody. But I always look at the room and I'll make a beeline for anyone who looks awkward. So someone standing on their own looking awkward, someone slightly off to the side, or someone hovering near the drinks. Those people are easy targets because they will be grateful to you for coming up to them.
That's very interesting. And I think that we all could learn from that as well. One of the tips that I could add in there is rather than walking into a crowded room and panicking a little, is I always say arrive early and leave late. So by arriving early, you set the scene and don't go to the edge of the room, go into the middle of the room. And your body language is facing the door. And that way you've got an opportunity to smile and show your true personality when others enter the room. And you gesture with your hand out to say, hello, please join me. And you bring them in. A couple of things I do on that. I don't take a drink in my hand because I don't like to shake somebody's hand when I've been holding a cold glass of water with ice and then I feel like I've got a clammy hand. So I don't hold food or drinks in my hand when I'm saying hello at those instances. I make sure that my hands are actually free so I can gesture and I can talk. If I've got a handbag, I usually have it over my shoulder. And in the outside of my bag, I've got some business cards. For those who still want business cards, most people are just happy to scan it or you can get their details. But I do have it on hand if they want. But I don't force my business card on someone anymore unless I feel that it's going to be genuinely wanted, because it puts people in a compromising position to have to accept it. But I will talk about their name, where it comes from, do I pronounce it correctly, all of those things that start the conversation and welcome others as they're coming into the room. And I've done this a few times. I'm wondering if you do too, that when people are coming into the room and they don't know anyone, you gesture and you bring them to your group as well. It's friendly. And all of a sudden you've got a group of people around you and you're not locked into being with a one person who you know, which is a bit of a trap because sometimes you don't really leave them because it's comfortable. What do you do when you walk into a room?
That's so true. I think body language is essential, as you say. Good open palm gestures, lots of signaling, lots of showing that you're open, that you're ready to be friendly. It's really important for people to see that visually and feel that from you. So I agree. And I think that getting there early is definitely a great move. So I often do that as well. But sometimes inevitably, if I arrive a bit later, then, the room is already there. But I try to find a group that looks open. So not a closed circle, but an open circle. And when I join that circle, I always try to leave that open as well. And I will try and bring people in. If I notice somebody hovering on the outside, I will bring them into the group. I think that's really important because everybody can identify with how awkward it can feel if you've arrived somewhere and you're on your own and you're not in a group. And lots of circles look very closed. It can feel very hostile. So it's important to notice people hovering and to see that as an opportunity to bring someone in. And obviously they do react in a very grateful way as well, which is wonderful. So that's a great way to help others, to let them come into your group, introduce them. It's a good way for you to remember the names of the people that you have just met as well. And so that's a good technique. Another thing on names is when you meet somebody, you should always repeat their name. So I go, "Hello, I'm Lara." And you say,
"Hi, I'm Ricky."
"Hi, Ricky. It's great to meet you." Said your name, and the act of me saying your name helps me to process that and remember it more than if I just think in my own mind, "Oh, she's Ricky. How can I remember?" So that's quite a good little trick. And then when you introduce other people, then obviously saying the names of people again will help to cement that in your mind.
Remembering names is very difficult. I came from a teaching background, so if I didn't remember the names of students, I could get myself into tricky situations. So I do. And here's the thing, I call it paying attention to your intention. So I paid attention to actually remembering. My intention was to remember. If you have no intention of remembering and you're consumed with what's going on, you're actually not listening to what somebody's name is. So you've got really no chance to remember because in the first instance, you haven't even heard it. So I pay attention to my intention and I repeat it, but I try and find, sometimes that doesn't work enough. So I look for a hook, like a rhyme or something that makes a connection. So for example, if I meet somebody called Paul, I have a brother Paul. So in my mind, I go brother Paul. Or if I meet a Diana, I'd say, oh, Princess Diana. So I look for a celebrity or a person. If it's a Joe, I say, I've got an Uncle Joe. So I go, oh, Uncle Joe. And that's just my personal way of making that connection. It could be Pretty Polly or whatever it is. And you've got to do it that you don't say it out loud, of course, but that's your cue. But I would say paying attention when you first listen is one of the greatest gifts that you can have because you'll remember it long after the event. And take that card and write something on the back of their card about them so you've got that memory to jog. We've been talking about the event, but how do you follow up afterwards? Because it's well and good to have a great time and you take cards. So what do you do to follow up and make sure that that relationship is sticky?
I think that LinkedIn has given us a gift when it comes to follow up. So if somebody has given you their card, you can very easily look them up on LinkedIn and then you reach out to connect with a personal message. "It was great to meet you at X event.
Yeah.
I enjoyed our conversation. I think we work quite nearby. Would you be up for a coffee sometime? ? Best wishes." And then you send that and you wait to see what happens. And majority of people are on LinkedIn. So they should see that message at some point. Some people are very active and reply
Immediately,
which is fantastic. Others take a few days, it's fine. But I do find that in the majority of cases, people know who you are, they remember the conversation, they connect with you, and usually they say, "Yeah, absolutely, let's go for a coffee. When are you free?" And that is just wonderful. So that definitely is the easiest way for me, certainly using LinkedIn. But you could also use email if you want to, or if they mentioned anybody that you have in common, you might use that way. So you get in touch with your friend who you have in common and say, "Hey, when we met Joe the other day, it'd be great for the three of us to go for lunch. Do you want to reach out to them and let's all go?"
That's a great idea.
Use that as well. That's a very gentle and indirect way. So other things like that, I think they work really effectively. But I would say that During the event, for me, I do like to have deeper conversations with some select people. So what I do is I'll go in with the intention of only making one or two new friends. I think a lot of people enter a networking wanting to meet 40, 50 people and give out 100 business cards. I never do that. I'm much more interested in meeting someone who I'm definitely going to follow up with. Someone that I genuinely think, oh, this is a person that I'll get along with. I want to meet them again. So I will have slightly deeper conversations with maybe one or two people, but during the time I may be filtering through. So I might meet, say, 10 people at the event, but in a kind of a filtering way to just understand who are the people that actually I will have a long-term relationship, because that's, as I mentioned in my initial definition of networking, it is the intention to form a long-lasting relationship that is mutually beneficial. So sometimes you'll meet someone and you'll just know, I just don't have anything in common with this person. We're just not going to get on. So there's very little point actually in continuing that conversation for very long. So you can just politely bring somebody else in, introduce them to someone else, or find a way to find the next person with whom you probably have more in common.
It's one of the things that I've just done. If I get to that situation where I feel it's not going anywhere, I'll say, it's been so lovely talking to you. And I'm sure you're here to meet a number of people as well. So have a wonderful morning or afternoon and enjoy. And we shake hands or nod or whatever it is. And everybody's quite relieved, because otherwise it can actually get quite strange. But what about if you ask for a specific introduction to somebody and you go over to them and say, I knew you were coming today, or I asked to be introduced to you because I'd love to talk to you about your role or the work you're doing or what I've observed in this area. Would you be interested in another conversation outside the forum today? Would you do something like that, or do you find that's too pushy?
Yeah, that's really not my style at all. Firstly, I definitely am not as prepared and intentional as you when it comes to networking. I'm much more I'll look at the names on the door kind of person. Or I might have a sense of who's going, especially if they're speaking. But I'm not really like that. I'm much more see who's there.
Yeah.
See where the conversation takes us, get a feel for that person then and there, and then feel whether it looks like it'll be a good relationship going forward and I should follow up. As you say, if there is somebody really key there that I would like to meet, but I would just go up and start the conversation and just really see if we can build on that relationship. And if we feel that it's going well for both of us and they look equally keen to follow up with me, then that can lead there naturally. But yeah, I would definitely not try to be as targeted and direct as that.
Well, I think what you're saying too is that there's no one right way to network. You've got to feel it's authentic. You've got to read the room. You talked about reading the room, and you've got to do it in a way that makes you the best you can be and not intimidate or overwhelm somebody else. So you've got to know where your strengths are, don't you, when it comes to networking? But what happens if you think you want to meet someone, but you can't get to them because they're surrounded by lots of other sharks who are buying their time, or they're gatekeepers and they're busy in a conversation? Is there some way that you've been able to penetrate that group to make sure that at least you've had that initial introduction to them?
I would say that if it's at the event, if I'm at the event and I desperately want to meet them, I'll just hang around, hovering around, ready to pounce. So I have done that, particularly with speakers. So as you say, someone gives a talk, then there's networking and lots of people are hovering around. I'll wait my turn to genuinely say hello with the intention of then following up later so that I can refer to the fact that I've said hello. So I find, though, very interestingly, that most often if somebody has given a talk or something, very few people will go up to them and thank them for their time, thank them for their presentation.
Yes,
it's
right.
really interesting. You can go to a massive conference and there'll be 100 people in the room. The person will get off the stage and stand at the side hardly anyone says hello. So I always take that opportunity. If I've been impressed and found their contribution helpful, I will make a point of going up to them, because I know how much effort and time and also emotional turmoil it takes to go up and present. So I understand that. And I want that person to know that there are people in the audience who appreciate that. And also I've gone to see their talk because they are an authority in that area, and what they had to say is of value. So it's great to go up to them and be one of those only people and say, wow, that was fantastic. I really valued what you said there, and I'd love to connect and this and that. So doing that is very powerful. If you are not able to really engage with that person there and then, reach out on LinkedIn. I saw you at XYZ. I thought your talk was amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on this, blah, blah, blah. Let's connect. So again, use LinkedIn or find their website and their email and refer specifically to the thing that you attended. Because I think so long as you personalized and you give evidence of the fact that you were there at this, and, oh, I really wanted to speak to you, but you had so many people who wanted to speak to you, so I wasn't able to, but I'm reaching out here
That's nice. Yeah.
instead. Just be
Make it
authentic,
natural.
as you say.
So people are often very well intentioned, like yourself, to do that. And we send emails and through LinkedIn, and people respond, says, yes, it would be lovely to catch up. I'm busy at the moment. I'll get back to you. Or yes, let's. And that's it. And they are obviously well intentioned most of the time. But a month, 2 months, 3 months goes by, and you've sent an email perhaps, or you've left a message on their phone, you've tried again through LinkedIn, and you hear crickets. You don't hear back. But you had this lovely interaction at an event, and yes, they gave you a sign or a cue that they were keen. That's where networking can get a bit tricky. What do you do in the event of you got the right signal, but then nothing happened?
I think if you really genuinely feel you got the right signal, I think you can rely on the fact that person's just genuinely busy or forgotten. We all have exceedingly busy inboxes and busy lives. So just assume they definitely want to hear from you. And so make it easy. So let's say on LinkedIn, you've connected and you've initially said, hey, let's go for coffee. They've then connected and replied, yes, that would be great. You then look at your diary and you select 3 dates, usually in 2 or 3 different weeks. And you say, I am free Monday at 3:00, the following week, Friday at 4, and blah, blah, blah. If any of these don't suit you, please suggest another time. Make it easy. So none of that, when are you free? When are you free? You can do ping pong for years.
For years.
No, you are specific. You say, I'm free at these 3 times. If not, when is good for you? They will usually fit one of those 3, almost always. If not, they then appreciate the fact that you've been specific, and they will provide you with, actually, I'm traveling, I'm going on holiday, but I'm back on 6th of June, and actually I'll be free on this date or this date. So they usually respond in a specific way as well. So when you are intentional and you do slightly more work, the other person does usually respond. But if they say, oh, I'm actually going away for 2 months, would love to see you when I get back, you can either say, they're blowing me off, or you can say, okay, I'm just going to put a quick reminder in my diary, and I put that in. Oh, if I really want to see that person, I'll put in my diary, Ricky back from holiday, and that will show up. I'll go back into my LinkedIn again and go, hey, I guess you're back from holiday now. How was it? Do you want to catch up for that coffee? I'm free on XYZ. At that stage, they've forgotten completely who you are and they genuinely don't want to see you. They won't reply. But if they actually did want to see you and they've genuinely been on holiday and they're back, they'll be like, oh, great. Thanks for picking this up again. Yes, I'm now free XYZ. Honestly, I have had that happen so many times because people around here, they do travel all the time. People are genuinely busy. But I think if you make it easy and you follow up, majority of people say, wow, thanks following
I
up.
love that. There's another expression we use here too called give without expectation and receive without forgetting. And I think in networking, to me, it's about being generous. If you do go to meet someone or you offer them something to give that's going to enhance some knowledge or an opportunity or a connection that they can make as well. But it's not just about the giving, it's also about receiving without forgetting to say thank you or forgetting to acknowledge something that they've done. What do you do about acknowledging and thanking?
I make sure, as you say, I am always expressing my gratitude and always thinking of that other person in terms of what can I give them? How can I be helpful? Having a helpful attitude is so important to relationship building. So that's why you ask the right questions when you're building that relationship. Who are the kind of people you would like to meet? What kind of work do you do? Who would be useful for you? And then always thinking about keywords. What are the keywords for that person?
Give me an example.
Let's say, for example, in the legal industry, I'll be thinking of lawyers and somebody might be in shipping and they might want to meet somebody in particular. But if something comes up that would mean that they're the right person and I meet someone, I'll try and connect them. I thought of you because this person wants to meet this type of person. So the other day, for example, I was coaching somebody and they mentioned their passion for financial literacy amongst women. So I said, well, you have to meet this lady who's founded a fund for women and who's actively promoting financial literacy for women. You have to connect on LinkedIn. So I did the introduction. It's those kind of things, but definitely givers gain. I don't know if you've ever been a member of Business Networking International, BNI.
Yes, I have BNI.
BNI is very powerful because you are there to help each other and givers gain. And that mantra, I think, is really important because so many people do go into networking with, I want to get. It's not you want to get. You will get, but only if you give. And so karma is there. If you're a giving person and you put things out there, you're constantly adding value, connecting people, you mustn't expect to get something back directly. So it's not that I give a referral directly to Ricky, therefore Ricky needs to give me one back. It's not like that. I might give a referral to you, Ricky, but actually you tell somebody else that I gave you a referral. And that person then goes, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I remember her. Yes, actually, I have a referral. And it will come back indirectly. So you'll always get something back, but you mustn't be counting and you mustn't be out there with that greedy attitude. You've just got to send things out into the universe and be yourself and just really not expect anything. And actually, when you've got low expectations, that's when you are so pleasantly surprised. Isn't that what you found as well, Ricky?
Well, it's not about low, it's just about, for me, it's about realistic. What can I expect at the level of the relationship that I might have with that person at that time? Because unless I've earned their trust in some way, I can't expect someone to give me a referral if they don't know enough about my work as a leadership coach and presenter. So they might say, she seems nice, she's done all the right things, but if I'm going to refer her into my network, I've got to know that she's going to deliver fantastic results. And I would be proud to have her as a referral because their reputation is on the line as well. So every referral I get, I really feel that I've earned the right because I've demonstrated my work and my value for my clients to say, Lara, I'm working as an executive coach for leaders and professional services. With your network, I would appreciate a referral directly into X industry. And if you feel that's valid, you'll say, yes, I will directly connect you with Peter or Mary or whoever it is. But if I ask you without earning a trust, you might say, yes, let me think about it, but you're not going to do anything about it because there's an unease about that because I'm not qualified. And that's part of the giving. I'll be really happy to give, but I've got to make sure that I'm giving to people who've earned the trust as well. So that can get a bit tricky sometimes if people pressure you. Can't it? But I know you and I've known you for ages. You could be referring me or telling me. How do you handle that when people might want those referrals or the introductions to your network, but you're still not sure? What do you do? I think that can be tricky sometimes.
Yeah, as you say, it depends on how well you know that person, but also what is their intention. I must say that I am much more lighthearted in terms of connecting people. And I think the problem is for me when through LinkedIn, for example, a lot of people reach out to me and say, can you connect me? I know that you're connected to such and such.
So.
Can you introduce me? The thing is, if I don't genuinely know that person, then I don't feel that I'm in a position and I'll have to go back to them and say, I'm sorry, I don't actually know them. I am connected, but I don't know them personally, so I cannot introduce you. But I will find out their intention. If it's somebody I do know, then I'll find out why do you need to be connected to this person.
Fantastic. Yeah, great answer.
If they have value to offer and I feel that be of benefit for my connection to be connected, then I'm happy to connect them and just say, this person, I have met them in this context. They do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
They have asked me for an introduction. I don't know them that well, but you seem to do this and this, and here is what it is. So I try not to take it too seriously and assess every case, but I do try and be helpful and connect people. But anyway, I know we need to wrap up. So I'm just going to conclude on some golden rules for networking. So quality, not quantity. Go in there with a helpful mindset and just try and meet a few good quality contacts that you're going to follow up with to build meaningful relationships. Be yourself and authentic, but play the long game. Assume that you're going to have a long-term relationship with these people and lead with a very helpful mindset. Like we said, givers gain, we talked about that.
Yes,
and always follow up. Any other tips as well from you, Ricky?
I love what you said about the givers gain. One thing I would say is something I learned when I was teaching performance is networking can be a little bit like a trailer for a movie. Don't give the whole movie away in one mouthful because it's, I'm not going to remember all that, or now that I've got everything, I don't need to come and see you again or talk to you again. So as you said earlier, being insatiably curious and giving just enough that people go, tell me more, is where you want it to be. So they come back and you can have some lovely dynamic conversations in the future.
That's a great point. And I think we can leave everybody on the edge of their seat want to know more about networking from us. So we will end on that note. So thank you so much for your time today, Ricky.
And thank you, Lara. Thank you.